I don't know how many of you guys remember, but about 9 years ago, there was a group of 4 people who came here and they did a dramatic presentation on the Gospel of John. And that was me and my wife. She wasn't my wife at the time. My brother, and then Savannah, who is here tonight. And we performed the Gospel of John here. And now we have the privilege to get to see a new group of young people performing the exact same show that we did all those years ago, probably better than us. So hopefully you guys don't remember our performance that well. But this group is a continuation of the group that we had started all those years ago. We used to be called Now and Forever Ministries. Apparently the title wasn't to be forever because we've renamed it. It's now Alitheia Ministries, which is a Greek word that means truth. And their goal is to be presenting the truth of the gospel through dramatic presentation. And that's what we're hoping to see here tonight. What you're going to see is probably a different version of the Gospel of John than what you've read in the Bible. It's from an outward perspective. It's getting to see what was the feeding of the 5,000 from the perspective of someone who was sitting in the crowd of 5,000 people. It's getting to see the wedding of Cana from the bride and groom's perspective. So it's getting to see things from a different perspective. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be engaging. You're allowed to laugh. You're allowed to cry. You're allowed to have emotions during this, So interact, have fun, enjoy. And without further ado, I want to present to you, Alitheia Ministries wants to present to you John's story.
This is the story of a man who began before time began, and that of which he revealed of himself to us. He was in the beginning with God, and he was God, and all things came into being by him. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The light shines in the darkness and shines.
Floods hit Southwest area. Thousands flee from their homes.
And shines.
Elderly couples slain in their home.
And shines.
The number of young teenagers involved in pornographic filming has reached staggering proportions.
And shines.
Residents struggle to clear away debris. Losses estimated at $3 million.
Grandson suspected in crime rampage.
Millions in danger of starvation. Food takes backseat to military cargo.
Some are good kids, caught in the moment of casual rebellion.
The crisis has been devastating. The government uses famine as an instrument of war, a senseless tragedy.
A senseless tragedy.
A senseless tragedy.
A senseless tragedy.
A senseless tragedy. Where today is that shining light?
Where today is that beacon of hope?
Where today is that thought of peace?
This is the story of a man who himself is peace. In his life were signs, miracles, only glimpses of his glory. The first was in Cana of Galilee.
Cana, a tiny little dot of a place. Nothing more than lint on the sleeve of Galilee. At Cana, there was a wedding. There was much feasting, much hurrying of busy servants. The musicians wound their way around the guests. All of Cana was there. One party had come all the way from Nain, and Mary of Nazareth was there.
Yes, indeed, she was there. She was invited. Would I neglect to invite my own cousin at my son's wedding? Not me. Not likely, not very likely. She was invited, but at the last minute, she sent a message saying that her son, the rabbi, would be in town. Could she bring him to the wedding? She's so proud of that son and that happening in the Jordan. Did you hear about it?
What? Hear about what?
John Elizabeth's son baptized Mary's son in the Jordan. John the Baptizer specializes in baptizing Jews, and he said that he heard the voice of God thundering forth that Jesus was the Son of God.
And this Jesus is here at the wedding?
Well, yes. What could I do when Mary hinted that I invite her son also? Then she mumbled something about a bunch of close friends who were traveling with him. 12 of them, mind you, 12 hungry vagabonds. What can I say? No, there's only enough for family. Not likely, not very likely. Then when they arrived, Mary drew me aside and said that they had brought no token with them. Token indeed, they had brought no wine, no extras but themselves. Of course, I showed her that we had plenty, which we don't. We're out for sure.
Don't worry about it. Everyone's having a good time. They'll all say it was the loveliest wedding they've ever seen.
I hope so. I hope it'll be a wedding to be remembered. Oh, look, there's Simon and Leah.
Oh, come on, Mama, you're missing out on all the fun. Let the kitchen worry about itself.
It's all so lovely. Oh, Mrs. Benjamin.
Mrs., you're the Mrs. I'm the mama to you two now. You're lovely, Leah. You'll make my son happy just by smiling at him.
I'll go see to the wine.
Who are all these people? I just met a man from Bethsaida. His name was, Philip. He didn't know any of us.
You just met him. I thought he was an old friend of yours.
Never seen him before. Or his friend with him, a tax collector from Jerusalem.
Well, if you don't know him, I don't know him. Who invited him?
They came with Mary, son. They all came together. You know, I never thought Jesus would leave Nazareth, but he has a calling, they say. Now he has a following of 12 at least. 12 who seem the hungriest at our table. The guests uninvited are always the ones who eat the most.
Don't worry, Celia. She wants the world to come to her parties. She's been planning this one ever since my bar mitzvah.
I couldn't have planned a prettier bride.
Oh, Mama.
The other ones were never right for Simon.
What other ones?
Oh, the other
Hey,
girls.
Mama, please stop that kind of talk.
Oh, what's it matter? You've made your choice now, and it's a good one. She'll be happier knowing you had others to consider. Would you believe he never winked his eye until he found you mirrored in his soul? Not likely, not very likely. Simon, stop shushing me. I finally have a girl to talk to.
Oh, hey, look, there's Mary, cousin Mary. She looks concerned.
Oh, she's looking for her son. There he is, she's found him. I remember one time we went down to the temple together. Mary and Joseph couldn't find Jesus when we were on our way home. Mary thought he was with Joseph. Joseph thought he was with Mary. What a search we had. Mary insisted Joseph let the boy wander off while he talked fishing with the men. When they found him, he was still at the temple. Mary told everyone how the rabbis questioned him and were astonished at all he knew. You answered all your questions when you came of age, and I didn't go around telling everybody about it. No, not me. Not likely, not very likely.
Oh, then he's the brightest of them all.
He and his brothers. But I am not the kind of mother to talk the sun into the west with stories of my family. Now look at Mary. She's talking to our servants. What's she telling them? Simon, go get your father. The servants need him to tell them what to do.
It's probably nothing, Mama.
It may not be, but they hurry off to do her bidding as though this was the wedding of her son. But go! There's always been something about Mary that makes people do as she says. She carries a stillness, like fresh water in a cup. But she does smile aloud in her mothering.
As you do, Mama. And I shall love being your family. And look at it, it's a lovely wedding. Everyone has said so. But it goes so fast. All the planning and preparations took so much time. All the months of decisions, and here we are. And it goes so fast. I keep telling myself to remember every detail I can. The candles, the people, the little children who stroke my dress, the music and everything. I want to remember it all so that I can think it through when my mind is not so busy with getting married.
Go, you two, mingle with your guests. They'll want memories of you. Simon, there's your uncle. Go speak to him. Thank him for the sheep he gave you. He's not frequent in his giving. When your brother married, he gave him freshly cheese and seed. Cheese as though it were curdled gold. To you, he gave sheep. It's well we named you for him.
Simon, the wine!
What?
The wine! It's the best we've ever tasted. Normally they serve the best wine early in the evening before the people have lost their taste for better wine, but you served it late, and the purification vats are full of it. I just hope they don't waste it in cleansing. It's the best we've ever tasted.
Those vats weren't filled with wine. Your father placed them empty in the kitchen. Go get the servants. I don't understand what's happened.
Oh, they're all in the back locked into whispering. They point to Jesus as though he's done some amazing thing. The disciples are all
I
around
can
him
see
too.
that, I can see that. There'll be talk about this. We will never hear the end of it if it's said that Jesus brought with him some special wine. But they didn't. I saw them as they came in empty-handed. Have them start the music. Too much attention is being paid to this mysterious wine. Simon, you and Leah start the dancing. Jesus
He is not causing any trouble. He spoke to me, and his voice was comfortable in laughter. Some rabbis seem such solemn men, but this one carries joy so lightly it seems to spill into the faces of those around him. Come, Simon, let's go talk to him. He can tell us about the wine.
Have them start the music. I'll see to the servants.
This sign, this beginning of signs, Jesus did in Cana of Galilee and manifested his glory. And we disciples believed in him.
We believed in him. We did not believe in his miracles.
No, not you, Thomas. You found it difficult to believe. Always.
Well, I didn't see it done.
No, you were busy at the dinner table delighting yourself with the miracle of carob sauce and honey cakes.
Well, I heard about it though, and the talk grew. Everywhere we went, they talked about this sign. That stirred up the Sanhedrin. Nicodemus, one of the nation's rulers, sought out Jesus. Came to him in the night to ask him questions. We know you are from God. For who else can do such things unless it is God in him?
Jesus quite enjoyed that interview. Ancient truth in dialogue with truth himself. And Jesus said to Nicodemus, unless one is born again, he cannot enter the kingdom of God.
Born again? That is not a phrase for a man of learning. Born again? How can a man be born when he is old? A man cannot enter his mother's womb again, can he?
Nicodemus, don't confound yourself with this truth.
But how can these things be?
And you, a teacher of Israel, do not understand?
If it is true, I wish to understand it, but we sit in council about such matters, and will be held responsible for what we teach the people, and what we let them learn from others. And to me, there is such a mystery about all your teachings, a mystery confirmed by miracles. Let God, who has evidenced in you, answer me. The signs you do will clear my mind of its stubbornness.
If I have told you of earthly things and you have not understood, how will you understand if I tell you of heavenly things?
I don't know. I don't know how to believe without reason, but if there's a means to life eternal in what you say, I would be a fool to let my ignorance block my way to it. Teach me, give me understanding.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten.
You speak often of love. Is the beginning of God found in love? I love my children, I love my calling, I love my way of life. Is this verb the doorway into the kingdom?
For God so loved the world that he gave
It is giving. I give my time, my scholarship, my attention to the law.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son.
We speak often of the Messiah that is to come. It is a teaching grown stale with much waiting, but I can accept that still God may send a saint.
Gave. He gave.
A gift? A prophet from God is a gift?
His only begotten Son.
But why? Why would he do what has not yet been done? Would he say what has not yet been said? Why would God send his Son?
So that those who believe in him shall not perish, but have eternal life.
Then he must do what has not yet been done. I will think on these things. I'll give your teachings much consideration.
Nicodemus, he who practices the truth comes to the light. And there was a second great sign, again in Galilee, where he turned the water into wine. And there was a certain royal official whose son was sick at Capernaum.
My husband told me he was going to Cana to see this man Jesus who had turned water into wine. Our son was sick, at the point of death, and we hoped that this Jew who would perform the miracle might heal our boy. Worry flourishes in a bed of idleness. I was glad I had many other things to do. There was the household staff, the other children. But my mind never left that one room where one small boy lay hot with fever. The servants tended him as best we knew. Baths and cool wrappings, herbs and compresses piled high upon his tiny head like a costume turban, his body wrapped in an unnatural stillness. I went to the garden, as though I may draw upon its coolness for my son.
And this royal official came to Jesus, beseeching him to heal his son. Jesus knew that miracles drew sufferers like a magnet.
Teacher!
At times it seemed to weary him.
Teacher, my son! I come from Capernaum, my son, he is ill. Please, if you can heal him, come with me.
Again, it is only for signs and wonders that you have come. If you would only believe.
My son, Antonio, he is dying. The call for mourners has already gone out. If you can heal him, come with me.
If you would only believe.
I believe there is no hope but through you.
Silence and solitude are to long impacted weariness as sun and rain to seeded blooms. Beside my son's bed, I was strong. Here, I knew the lie of strength. I was stiff and weary and very weak. I sat facing her sundial. How slowly the pattern of light counts the hours of waiting. I didn't even know what for I was waiting. I didn't share my husband's assurance in the healing power of Jesus. But I had heard of the miracles. Oh, my baby, my son, Antonio, live.
We must go to my home.
Your son is well. Do you believe me?
I believe you have great power.
Then go your way. Your son lives.
Oh, madame!
I cannot answer, for then I must hear the news.
Oh, madame, here you are. I've searched the whole house for you. Come quickly. Hurry to good news and not to bad. The fever has broken. There was a sudden flushing of his face, and his sweat so strong it seemed his flesh did weep. Now he turns his head to see beyond the blankness of his stupor.
He will live?
He is well to living now. I have nursed at many grieving bedsides, but never have I seen one brought so low, so quickly lifted back to life. Now hurry to your child. He calls for you, and for water and for food. I'll have to cook
My husband. Send the servants to my husband.
Yes, a centurion. I've never seen one so distraught, except for me and you and...
Send the servants.
And the centurion's servant met him on the road, saying, Master, your son!
Yes, tell me.
Your son is well, his fever gone. He was even eating custard when I left.
When did this happen?
Well, just as I left, your wife was feeding him and laughing at the eager way he took to the food.
No, when did the fever leave him?
Well, we had already served the afternoon meal, even though no one ate. We'd already fed all the cattle, and...
When did the fever leave him?
I'm trying to think, sir. Maybe it was 1 o'clock. We had already cleaned off all the platters, and... Oh, yes, it was 1 o'clock. I saw the time on the sundial as your wife was waiting in the garden for the news.
1 o'clock. It's the same time that the teacher told me your son lives. Come, I'll tell you on the way. Let's go to my home.
And he himself believed, and his whole household. This second great sign Jesus did as he was coming up out of Judea into Galilee. And as he entered into Jerusalem, there was by the sheep gate a pool, which is called Bethesda. And there was by this pool a multitude of the sick, blind, lame, and withered, all waiting for the moving of the water.
Twenty, 21, 22, 23.
Hey, Nadia, how's it going?
Not good, not good. 25, 26, 30. 30 deluxe bathed in crystals. Do you know how many I had when I opened up? 30. So, you tell me how it's going.
Business is bad, huh?
Yes, business is bad. 9, 10.
Where is everybody?
You tell me and I'll go there and open up shop. 11, 12, 13.
Maybe they're all at Passover.
Maybe, but they used to come here along the way. 21, 22.
Maybe they're all well.
Then maybe they went limping off just for exercise. Okay?
6,
27.
Well,
Maybe you better let me tell you what happened instead of maybing things that didn't happen at all. 35. 35 large-sized Bethesda bomb bubbles. I had 34 this morning. A man brought one back, said he saw what happened here yesterday, and decided he didn't need the bubbles.
What happened?
Well, same as always at first. Cutler sets up his booth, all white and medical looking. Put out his sign in front. Healing assistants hired here, with his weekend special banner flying over the booth.
Same as always.
Rhonda sets up her booth with all the sketches of the angel clamped to the counter. She has a man in Emmaus doing for her. He's never even been here, never seen the angel. But Rhonda gave him all the details. So she sets up her booth.
Same as always.
And then the folks start coming. Friends bringing stretchers heavy with hurting people. Dignitaries carried in hammocks or riding the processions of servants. One of them bought 3 bottles of the deluxe crystals, and I thought it was going to be a good day.
Same as always.
Musicians prancing around, friends calling out to each other, drivers yelling directions to other drivers. Old Renal checking the reservation list for spaces up on the balconies, and getting a healthy bribe from any of the rich crowd that hadn't reserved a space.
Same as always.
The beggars and thieves weaving in and around everybody. The rabble dragging themselves in from all the dark, dirty places the rabble live. I hate to see them come. They don't hurt any more than the rest of them, but they always look like hell didn't do them any good.
I can see it all from the way you're telling it. Same as always.
Just wait until I tell you what made the big difference. I was sitting here, singing on my merchandise, high-quality bottled water, fresh from the angel's touch. Rhonda and her booth ringing a tacky little bell under her awning and calling out, "Pictures of the angel, send to your friends, get them right here while they last." Cutler, over in his booth, beating on the canvas stretcher and looking hopeful when anyone looked his way. Did you know he's got 20 boys running for his healing assistants?
Same as always.
Not this time. I saw this group of men walking towards the pool area. They didn't look like rich crowd, and I thought maybe they're merchants. But they didn't pay any attention to the stalls. At least their leader didn't. He moved through that crowd quickly, with the bunch following him, struggling along as best they could. As they passed me, they kept whistling back and forth to each other, and I heard one of them call out, "Hey, Andrew, tell him to slow down," and somebody up ahead called back, "I will as soon as I catch him," and the whole lot of them laughed. Everyone stopped to see who was laughing. That's the only sound we never hear around here. The attention to the laughter kind of opened up a path for this leader. He walked up the levels quickly, like he was hurrying to meet someone. And it was then that I heard Rhonda call over to me, "Hey, I heard someone say, 'That's Jesus.'" And then I heard a rustling from breathy voices, a murmuring like a chorus. "It's Jesus. It's Jesus." I looked back to Rhonda and I noticed 2 men peering out from behind her booth. They were watching Jesus so intensely I felt that they were memorizing him. They must have moved out when they heard the crowd.
Were they part of the group with Jesus?
No, all of his men were climbing up the levels behind him. They got to the 3rd level and stopped. He looked down at old Gurney.
That fellow who's been coming here for so long?
Yeah, no one even remembers how long he's been here. They say he used to come leaning on a cane, dragging 1 foot behind him. But now he just begs for travelers to carry him, pallet and all, to a vacant place. He doesn't have any servants to help put him into the water. Every once in a while, he'll give a coin to Cutler, and one of his healing assistants will drag him to the edge of the pool. But they never help anyone into the water. From down here, we could see Jesus talking to Gurney, and Gurney waggling his head in along with an answer. We figured we knew what he was saying. He says it to anyone who will listen. "I have no servants to help put me into the water. For 38 years I've been waiting here, without help or healing or hope." And then Jesus said something. No, it was more than just saying. It was like a command. His hand cut through the air and pointed down at Gurney. It looked like he was giving Gurney something from himself. Everyone moved back like we were crowded out of our space, People were peering up at him from lower levels, stretching their necks to see all around that crowd. And then the most amazing thing happened. Gurney began to move. He rolled over onto his stomach, crawled to his knees, put his left hand on the shoulder of one of Jesus' men who had knelt down to look at him. And then he shuffled his feet a couple of times, all the while looking at Jesus. Then he, Gurney, stood up. Nobody breathed. Nobody even moved. Gurney just stood there, his long, bony arms hanging from his shoulders like what palm leaves, and stared down at his pallet for a moment. It was sort of a sad moment, like he was saying goodbye to an old friend. And then he stooped down and began to roll that pallet tight and hard, and lifted it high above his head and laughed. Yes, laughed. Deep, rich, rolling laughter. We all started clapping like Gurney had done some marvelous magic. Jesus had slipped back into the terraces. All we could see was Gurney dancing. Now mind my words, dancing down from the terraces, twirling the pallet high above his head like a clown with a painted barrel. Most of the crowd followed him. Those that could walk, that is. Others were calling out to Jesus or searching for him. I saw Jesus standing at the top terrace, smiling down at old Gurney. Old Gurney playing the fool with his happiness. Everybody was smiling. Except those two men by Rhonda's booth. They watched Gurney, but they didn't smile. They followed him, but they never danced. After that, Jesus walked past my booth and on to Jerusalem. Most of the crowd followed him, and they didn't even wait to see if the angel would also come that day. And now, the news has spread. A rabbi who heals better than any bubbles or scents or any of our wares.
That's why nothing's selling.
That's why.
You want some oils? I got eucalyptus with berry strains. Might even have a special on them.
I've got a special on anything in my booth.
Want to trade?
No, I'm gonna close up shop early. Take the day off.
This third sign Jesus did in Jerusalem, and it was the Sabbath on that day. And the Pharisees said to him who was cured, "It is the Sabbath, and it is not lawful for you to carry a burden."
That man, the one who made me well, said to me, "Take up your pallet and walk." And I did! Look at me, walking, dancing, leaping! Not for 38 years have these limbs walked free. Look, limbs strong. I say to my body, knees bend, and look, they bend! I say to my body, soar up, and I soar into the heavens as I come back down to the ground, and I realize that I'm exhausted, and so I say to my body, lie down, and look, I lie down! And it is good.
Who is that man who said to you, "Take up your pallet and walk"?
I don't know.
You don't know? We watched him as he climbed the balconies looking for you. We were behind the Sketcher stall, and we saw the whole thing happen. Who is this man?
I don't know. Look, I say to my knees, bend and they bend.
Tell us his name. Surely you know.
I know him only as the man who healed me.
On the Sabbath. On the Sabbath, when it is not lawful to carry a burden.
I carried a burden for 38 years. A burden of lameness, of infirm flesh. You should have arrested me then. Here, this burdening pallet is light. You take it. Now I carry no burden at all. And I say to my body, run, and I run.
And it was for this reason that they persecuted Jesus. Because he was doing these things on the Sabbath. And Jesus went over to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, and a great crowd followed him there. And Jesus went up into a mountain, looked down upon the multitude, and he had compassion on them, for they were hungry. And Jesus told his disciples to feed them.
Judith, we're here. Stand still so we can hear.
I can hear. I've been hearing for hours and hours.
Be still, Judith. This one speaks of life.
True, but I want no creeping insect to enjoy this life with me.
It is but the grass that rubs against your ankles.
With a dark brown body, several feet, and what looks like wings. Hush, Judith. Hush, Judith. I'm hungry as eel, and you won't admit it, but I know you are too. I can hear your stomach growling. If you told me we were to be gone all day, I would have packed a lunch.
I only knew Jesus was coming here to preach today.
He's been touring all of Galilee.
And God has provided us a way for us to hear him today.
I could listen better if God had provided some barley soup. Or even some bread and cheese.
Don't set your mind on such things, Judith. It'll only make you hungrier.
When my mind feasts on the thought of food, my feet don't cry so loud at this long standing. Oh, look, there's Athalia! Athalia, dear? Yeah, over here.
Judith, see you. It's a good to see you. Isn't this wonderful?
We're enjoying it. It's, long, but we're enjoying it. Is Benjamin here?
Yes, he said we found my son, Becker. Have you seen him?
Oh, no, dear, I
He
haven't.
told us to sit down.
Oh,
down.
thank heavens. Here, sit with us. Benjamin will turn up soon, don't you worry now.
Is Benjamin here?
Yes, we've been following these meetings, even before he came to Olathe. He left Galilee because of Herod.
Oh, yes, we heard about that awful business with his friend John the Baptist.
Benjamin says that Herod thinks Jesus is John risen from the dead.
Sounds like something Herod would think. Tell me, how does he explain John and Jesus when they were both together?
I don't know. He may not even know about that. Benjamin heard one of Jesus' disciples teaching in, where was it? I don't remember. But he was teaching all about John the Baptist and what he preached before he baptized.
Oh, did he tell about Salome? That's what I'd like to hear. I've heard she twirled around Herod with all those veils until he would have done anything she asked. Dirty old man, thinking he can get by with adultery just because he's Herod. Honestly, I don't know what the world's coming to. A body's not safe. Thieves roaming the streets, free as grass. Children being snatched from their homes for evil purposes. Why, I just... Oh, well, don't worry about Becker here. These are good people. They may be foolish for staying so long at a meeting like this, but they're good people. What's happening up there?
Jesus and his disciples are talking about something. The disciples look worried, but Jesus doesn't.
He never is. He's compassionate. Always compassionate. And he seems to care very much about anything that the people care about. But he doesn't worry, do you know what I mean?
No, dear, I don't. When I care about something, I'll worry. But then, Jesus is a man, and men don't worry. Well, Zeal didn't worry at all until I helped him do it.
But I feel that he is as much for me as he's for Benjamin. He, Jesus, makes me feel that a woman is a good thing to be.
I've always felt a woman is a good thing to be. It's getting the men to see that as what's difficult. What's happening now?
Jesus is lifting up something small in a pouch. I can't tell what it is, but there's a little boy next to him too. I don't know who that is.
Becker? Is that Becker? What's he doing there? Well, that's his lunch in Jesus' hands. I should know. I grabbed him a piece of cloth to tie in his belt. Oh, I hope Jesus is gonna eat that. It's just leftovers. What in the world has that child done now?
You want me to go get Becker for you?
No, I don't want anyone to know he's mine. I can't believe he'll do this. What's happening now?
Well, it looks like he's splitting the lunch with the disciples.
Splitting what? It's just a few leftover fish and about 5 rolls. They're not even fresh. I had big fresh rolls this morning.
Well, why should ya? You didn't know your son was just gonna up and have a picnic with Jesus.
Well, I don't think that the disciples are going to eat it themselves. I think he's feeding it to the people.
What good do they think that's gonna do? Do they think feeding one person out of 5,000 will just make the rest of us content? No, I don't think so. I think we should go back to Bethsaida. we have plenty of fruit at home. You and Benjamin can join us, and Becker can stand in the corner.
Judith, sit down, Judith. The people are being fed.
With what? Not Becker's lunch. I know what I put in that lunch. And I know what Becker's already taken out of it. He ate the grapes. Good grapes, a big bunch. And if he hadn't eaten them, at least one rogue would have had a grape per person. Oh, wait till I get that child home. I've never been so embarrassed.
No, the people are being fed. It's a miracle, Judith. We're watching a miracle.
Well, this turned out to be quite a day.
Oh, which disciple is that coming this way?
Oh, that's Philip. We've known him since he was a little boy. He's from Bethsaida. You know, there was this one time.
Israel is being fed. Look at the disciples' faces. They didn't even know this was going to happen.
Oh, I better get back to Benjamin. He may not know what's happening.
Oh, okay. I'll tell Philip to tell Becker where you are.
Sit down, Judith.
I'm sitting. Oh, hello, Philip. How's your mother?
Judith, this is not the time for that.
Well, I want him to know we're here. We might get an extra helping. What did I tell?
Judith, we're watching a miracle, a mighty sign from God, and you're trying to get yourself an extra serving?
Well, it looks to me like there's going to be plenty. Besides, there's nothing wrong with being friendly. Philip's mother will be glad to hear about this. She's been worried to death over Philip getting enough to eat.
We handed it out, and it multiplied in our hands. We even had 12 baskets full left over. And the people wanted to make Jesus king by force, their force. But Jesus just slipped away into the mountain to be alone. That evening, we disciples went down into the Sea of Galilee, and we got into a boat. We were crossing over to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, and it became very dark. The sea was rising because of a great wind. The water fought against our oars. Struggling with all our might, we could only manage 3 or 4 miles. Storms on the Sea of Galilee come suddenly and can be very severe. We were getting nowhere. The disciples that had handed out bread to a multitude with Jesus would die in a storm without him. It was then that Peter cried out, "Look!" And there we beheld some sort of apparition in light. We were very afraid, but then a voice called out to us, "It is I. Do not be afraid." Jesus, walking to us upon the waves, the very same waves that had cursed our boat, blessed his feet with tenderness. We received him into the boat, of course, and then suddenly we were at land. A miracle upon the water, a deliverer from the waves. Nothing was quite the same after that. Jesus, the public Messiah, appeared to us unto his men in a private sign. We went with him as he went, healing the sick, teaching the crowds that always came. And always we knew with certainty that this Messiah of Israel had plans for us in his kingdom. But always he was watched by the Pharisees. They were everywhere he went, inquisitive bystanders at every healing, lurking shadows at every meeting. They lurked and looked and lingered, waiting to defame him. Jesus met them openly in the temple. "If any man thirsts, let him come unto me and drink." And to the Pharisees he said, "I am the light of the world. If you abide in my word, you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free."
We are from the seed of Abraham and have been in bondage to no man. Our father is Abraham.
Your father, Abraham, rejoiced to see my day. He saw it and was glad.
You are not yet 50 years old, yet you have seen Abraham.
Before Abraham was, I am. And they took up stones to cast upon him. But Jesus just hid himself from them and went out of the temple. And as he passed by, he saw a man blind from birth, anointed his eyes with clay, and healed him.
Yoo-hoo, Dorcas, yoo-hoo!
Who calls me?
It's me, your cousin Sapphira. Where are you?
I'm on the roof. Just catching the last flight for a little sewing. Come on up, you know the way.
Greetings and news. I just heard it myself. Here, I brought you some sesame cakes cut thin and crisp. They're delicious.
They might have been. I'll never know. The platter's empty.
Oh, well, I was afraid that might happen. I ate several as I was hurrying here. Never meant to eat them all, but they were good. Cheap platter.
Thanks. But dear cousin, I think it's one of mine.
Oh, so it is. I borrowed it so long ago, I've come to think of it as mine. Now that it's returned, I'll miss it.
If you need, I'll be glad for you to take it back.
Thank you. But now, a story full of wonder to tell you. The beggar, the blind beggar at the temple. You know the one I mean?
Yes, blind from birth.
Well, until yesterday, that was true. Now they say he sees.
Oh, how wonderful. What happened?
He was healed.
I can't hear you.
Well, I'm afraid to speak the name. The very walls have ears.
The walls may, but not the clouds. Tell me, how was the beggar healed?
He was healed by Jesus! Shh! If you're asked, you never heard it from me. I'm not one to run against the law. I have nothing to tell.
Then why have you come here? And in such a hurry?
The sesame cakes. I came to bring the sesame cakes.
The ones you ate?
Well, that was an accident along the way.
Well, that of course explains it. Now tell me, how was the beggar healed?
The beggar at the temple steps was healed by you-know-who on the Sabbath. He did it with clay pressed to the lid and eye on the Sabbath. Not very smart. With the Pharisees watching everything he did, is that a bit of pots and honey?
Yes, Eli was eating them before he went to an evening meeting. Would you like some?
Yes, thank you. I'll just take a few on my platter here. Yes, healed well as a raindrop. And the healing just as rare. Never before a man blind from birth. I've seen faces much different than the same face with no sight, so nobody recognized him. Besides, he looked far less humble walking straight ahead without stumbling. In fact, I've heard from very reliable sources that the beggar spoke quite openly with the Pharisees, who said that Jesus wasn't for you-know-who, wasn't for God, or else he wouldn't have done all that working with clay on the Sabbath. But the beggar insisted that he had to be a prophet, or else he just wouldn't have had the power to do all that miracle. Which left no way of argument for the Pharisees except to say that the beggar had never been blind, which is so much steamed in a baking pot because we've all seen him there begging. What a shame. I've run out of pods and have some honey left.
Oh, help yourself, there's plenty.
Thank you. Well, then they called in the beggar's parents. They were shaking in their sandals being called in like that. They said they knew 2 things out of 3. That this was their son and that he had been blind, but how or why he now sees was beyond their understanding. And well, for them, the edge of ignorance. Knowing too much can get you into more trouble than knowing too little. They would have been thrown out of the synagogue for taking sides as to how and by whom the how became the why, if you know what I mean.
No, I don't know.
Well, think about it. A man born blind now sees. It's a miracle, a sign that might make you consider somebody being the Messiah. I never said it. I only spelled the word dear to our highest hopes and dreams. The seeing blind man has been whisked out of the synagogue, never again to enjoy its sweet fellowship and services. But the talk is of the sign, the healing of a man born blind. But it's not for that I came to borrow these few pods and honey, so don't let me disrupt your sewing. Goodbye.
Signs. Great signs. In Cana, water turned into wine. In Capernaum, a centurion's son healed. In Jerusalem, a man infirm for many years healed. On a mountain near Bethsaida, over 5,000 fed with just a handful of fish and some loaves of bread.
Signs. A storm on the Sea of Galilee, and Jesus walks through it on the water. In Jerusalem, the healing of a man born blind, and in the little village of Bethany, a man is raised from the dead.
name is Martha. My brother Lazarus died and lay dead in the tomb for 4 days. Jesus had been in our home many times. Jesus and Lazarus were friends. I sent him a message telling him of Lazarus' illness. He was in Perea, only a few days' journey from Bethany. He had healed a blind man on the Sabbath, further irritating the Sanhedrin. And there was much talk of stoning Jesus. His disciples warned him not to go into Judea at this time, but he ignored their warnings and moved on into Jerusalem for Passover. Along the way, he stopped at Bethany. When I heard he was coming, I ran just outside the city with the news of Lazarus' death. Christ asked if I believed in the immortality of the soul, and I recited the creed that I knew my brother would rise again in the last day. Have you ever realized how pitifully incompetent words are at handling grief? Phrases of immortality seemed minimized by the sudden size of a dead body. I believed in all that my religion taught me, yet as I said the words that we murmur hopefully in sorrow, they seemed to bear no relationship to my dead brother. Oh Lord, if only you had been here, he would not have died. Christ said, I myself am the resurrection and the life. The man who believes in me will live even though he dies. Can you believe that? I said I believed him to be the Christ, and he told me to go get Mary, who had not left the house when I did.
I ran to meet him, all the time thinking like Martha. If only he had been here. If only he had been here. Jesus is deeply moved at seeing our grief at our brother's death. I took him to go see the tomb. There was a crowd around us as we went up to the cemetery. I'm always surprised at the crowd that death collects. You appreciate the comfort, and sometimes hearing others weep with you helps to lessen your burden. But at such a time, I was surprised to find that we had a house full of company that had to be sheltered and endlessly fed, and in some strange way, graciously involved in the activities of grieving. It's helpful, it's all helpful, but the social nature of a funeral is a surprising thing. As we walked to the tomb, I was relieved to feel that there was no need to talk with Christ of other things. We usually do that, you know. As though it were not polite to mention death around a cemetery. Jesus was never like that. He was a realist. He dismissed nothing that was and offered nothing that could not be. When we got to the tomb, he said for us to open it. Take away the stone, he said.
I reminded him that the body had been in the cave for some time and had begun to decompose. Lazarus had been dead for 4 days. None of us wanted to see him as he was now. The spices and ointments would not cover the odor of rotting flesh. There was no reason to reveal the corpse. But Jesus was definite in his request, and the stone was rolled away.
I hid my eyes. The women around me all shuddered and turned aside. Even professional mourners did not expect to be viewing a dead body after such a time. I could not believe it when I heard Jesus' voice say as a ringing command, Lazarus, come out!
I couldn't either. I knew that he had claimed some power over death, but I had wrapped my brother's body, and I knew how very dead death is.
Someone screamed, and I opened my eyes to see the form of my brother, still wrapped in grave clothes, standing just outside the tomb. He could scarcely move, for his hands and feet were still wrapped for death.
Jesus said, unbind him and let him go home. I remember we were at first afraid to touch him. I don't know why.
I think we were a little disoriented by what had happened. Victory over death meant a change in world order. We were enclosed by new elements. Was it safe to breathe the air? Would the ground hold our steps? What would it be like living in a day that had seen death give back its victim?
The crowd went wild. We could scarcely get Lazarus home for people touching him and calling out to him. Sudden fame didn't seem to be a burden to him at all. In fact, I think he rather enjoyed it. He spoke on his resurrection at dinners and meetings and any gathering that could be scheduled. I used to tease him that he used a lot more words to tell about it than Jesus used to do it.
Many of the Jews, because of this miracle, because of this seventh great sign, believed in Jesus, believed him to be the Christ, the Son of God. But some others went away and told the Pharisees what Jesus had done. And the Pharisees and the chief priests convened a council, and from that day on, they planned to kill him.
You gentlemen asked to see me? Yes. I am a loyal Jew. I look forward to the coming of the kingdom and believe it is near. I know him. This Jesus. He's a good friend of mine. He trusts me, and I trust him. I would not want to see him hurt. But I agree with you. He is often ill-advised in his actions. He knows nothing of the course of expediency, the cost of the kingdom coming. He heals the ears of the deaf, but his ears are deaf to me. Perhaps we could work together for the kingdom. It'll be difficult to catch up. The one who steers his steps towards you would have to take certain risks. 10 pieces of silver. The going price of a slave is 20 to 30. So let it be. I'll keep my eye on him for you, and if I see a time of weakness, I'll make sure to let you know. Perhaps after Passover. His manor does collect supporters. What do they know? Those who lean into the wind to catch his every word, who pour their oils and perfumes upon his head, who brush past me to touch his garments. They are fools! But we, indeed, are wise.
They tell me that in Jerusalem, Mary's son the rabbi was arrested, and a garden where he often went to pray. He came to my wedding and turned the empty vats into vats full of good wine. I remember him as a pleasant man who seemed about to do great things.
The one who killed the master's son was tried by the Sanhedrin late one night because they feared him greatly. He did a service for this family. See the child grown strong. It was but one word from Jesus that pulled him from his dying. They may not tell the child of his viciousness in Jerusalem. Children find it hard to understand such things.
I've been told that the one who healed old Gurney has been tried by Pilate. Twice. The charge seems most unlikely for the one I saw striding up the ranks of invalids. Now I believe it more of the two skulking behind Rhonda's booth. They seemed evil bent, but not he.
We wanted to make him king that day, when he fed us all from one small lunch. And now they say he's crucified, under a wooden banner that calls him king indeed, and of the Jews. If he had let us crown him king, he never would have suffered so. But I guess the kingdom he chose has its crown beyond the cross. It hurts to think that the hands they pierced held so small a munch, and offered praise to God for every crumb.
There was a storm at sea, and when my boys came in, they had no other words to say, but praise to Jesus, who'd come to them upon the water. I stood with Mary, at the foot of a cross, bearing her son, the great teacher of my sons. It began at 9 that awesome Friday morning. For almost 3 hours we waited. Then, from the cross, Jesus called down to his mother, "Behold thy son." And then to my son John, "Behold thy mother."
He touched my eyes with clay, told me to wash in the pool of Siloam, and in obedience to him, I saw. Now with the very eyes he healed, I saw him on a cross, hanging, bleeding, dying. Oh, that I may give back my sight so that he would not have to suffer so. In darkness he writhed, and he cried one final word from his vinegar-stained lips. It is finished.
They laid him in a borrowed tomb, rolled the stone into place, and secured it with a Roman guard, a Roman seal, and the stagnant finality of his followers' grief.
He is risen.
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 He is risen from the grave.
Praise God.
I was less surprised than anyone else.
Oh, really, Martha?
Well, I was there when he called Lazarus from the tomb, when I knew my brother was dead, buried, and done for. I was there. I knew him to be the Christ. The grave couldn't hold him. Death couldn't claim him. Thanks be to God for the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ.
Thomas, we have seen the Lord. Perhaps an apparition, or a reflection of your own love.
We have seen the Lord.
God may have comforted you through his presence in a vision.
We have seen the Lord.
Not me. I'm a practical man. I had my fair share of dreams and theories. I loved him too, you know. I followed him, I watched him, I saw the signs. The fresh baked bread in my hands, the rocking of the boat as his body's weight was added to it. I toasted a marriage in new wine and snatched the burial cloth from Lazarus' face. But until I see in his hands the print of nails and put my finger into the wounds of his sides, I will not believe.
After 8 days, the disciples were within, and Thomas was with them. And Jesus came to them through doors that were shut, appeared in their midst, and said to them, "Peace be unto you. Look at my hands. Reach your hand into my side. Be not faithless, but believing."
Lord, my God.
Thomas, you have believed because you have seen. But blessed are those who have not seen yet believe. Many other signs and wonders Jesus did in the presence of his disciples that are not written in this book. But these are written so that you may believe. Believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing, you may have life in his name.
That you might believe. You today, this night, in your dilemma, you may believe. There is hope.
That you might believe. You today, with plans unrealized, that you may believe today there is peace.
That you may believe, you today, that you may see in the darkness there is light.
For the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it.
The light shines in the darkness.
And shines,
And shines,
And shines.
And shines.
That's everything. So thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming tonight, and yeah, that was the show. Actors, if you could come back out, please. And yeah, thank you all for coming tonight. And if you guys would like to talk to any of them after the show, they'll be right here, right? Good. All right. Thank you all very much.